I didn't do anything. I want to talk to my mom. Please. I just want to call my mother. Can I please just talk to my mom? I'll say whatever you want. Just let me go home.
But here's what they saw that made them so angry. Marcel was 18 years old when Chicago detectives locked him in an interrogation room. What happened over the next 33 hours would destroy a decade of his life, and every second of it was caught on camera. See, Illinois had just passed a new law requiring murder interrogations to be videotaped. The detectives knew they were being recorded. They did it anyway. Before we show you exactly what happened in that room, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because what you're about to see isn't just one bad interrogation. It's proof of a system designed to break innocent people. Drop a comment right now. How long do you think you could resist before saying whatever they wanted to hear? Because Marcel lasted 30 hours. And it wasn't enough. Here's where it all went wrong. August 30th, 2008. Saturday night. Amundsen Park on Chicago's west side. Groups of teenagers hanging out. Music playing. Normal summer night. Then shots rang out. Police respond. Survey the scene. Nobody's hurt. They leave. Here's mistake number 1. The next morning, a Park District employee finds 19-year-old Paris Jackson's body behind a field house. Shot and killed. Now detectives have a murder with no witnesses coming forward. Pressure from above to close the case fast. And that's when they made their second mistake. They focus on 18-year-old Marcel, not because he'd done anything wrong, but because his 15-year-old cousin had been at the park, and Marcel had driven him there. Let me say that again. Marcel's crime was giving his teenage cousin a ride to pick up their sisters. But Chicago detectives needed someone to blame. On August 31st, 2008, they brought Marcel in for questioning. What happened next would cost the city $50 million. Hour 1 to 5. The truth. Marcel sits down across from Detective Michael. The camera is rolling. I drove my cousin to the park to get our sisters. While we were there, a kid everyone calls Day-Day started shooting. We ran. Simple, clear, consistent. Marcel tells them this story at least a dozen times. He even gives them the shooter's name. Day-Day did it. I saw him with the gun. Here's what the detectives should have done. Go find Day-Day. Verify Marcel's story. Thank him for cooperating. Let him go home. Here's what they did instead. Built pressure. We don't believe you, Marcel. You're lying to us. You're protecting your cousin. You're going down for this unless you tell us what really happened. Marcel keeps repeating the same story because it's the truth. But Chicago detectives don't care about the truth. They care about closing cases. Hour 7. Marcel asked to call his mother. Denied. Hour 8. Can I talk to a lawyer? Denied. Hour 9. Can I at least call my mom and tell her where I am? Denied. And this is where it gets really dark. The sun goes down. Hours pass. Marcel hasn't eaten. Barely any water. No phone call. No attorney. No breaks. The detectives rotate shifts. Fresh investigators come in, pushing the same questions. Marcel doesn't get to rest. This is psychological torture. Sleep deprivation is a recognized interrogation tactic that produces false confessions. The detectives knew exactly what they were doing. Hour 15, Marcel's eyes are heavy. He's exhausted, confused, disoriented. I just want to go home. Please. The detectives lean in harder. You're going to prison, Marcel. 30 years. Maybe 35. Unless you start telling us what we want to hear. Here's where the city made its biggest mistake. They kept pushing. They should have stopped. They should have realized this kid was telling the truth. Instead, they broke him. Hour 20 to 30, the threats escalate. 35 years, Marcel. That's what you're looking at. 45 years if you don't cooperate. You'll be an old man when you get out. Your entire life gone. Then they offer him the deal. But if you tell us what we need to hear, if you admit you knew your cousin had a gun, if you say you drove him there knowing something might happen, we can help you. Read that again. They're telling him the truth equals life in prison. But lying equals freedom. What would you do after 30 hours of this? No food, no sleep, no contact with family. Threats of spending your entire life in prison for your cousin's crime. Marcel was 18 years old. He'd never been arrested before. He was terrified. Hour 30 to 33. The false confession. Slowly, Marcel starts changing his story. Not because it's true. Because 33 hours of psychological torture broke him. Okay, maybe I knew Branch had something. Maybe I thought something might happen. Maybe I should have stopped him. The detectives got what they wanted. They got Marcel to say he was involved in a murder he had nothing to do with. And here's the most chilling part. Watch the video. You can see the exact moment Marcel realizes what he's done. The moment he understands he just confessed a murder to make the torture stop. But it's too late. 3 years after that 33-hour interrogation, Marcel goes to trial. Bench trial, meaning a judge decides his fate, not a jury. The evidence against him? 3 witnesses say he never got out of his car. Another witness says he got out but never went past the entrance. No forensic evidence. No weapon. No motive. The only thing prosecutors have is that coerced confession. And here's where his lawyer made a fatal mistake. David Weiner, Marcel's trial attorney, never challenged a confession, never tried to suppress it, never even entered the videotape into evidence. Why? Because Weiner was incompetent. He would later be suspended from practicing law. The judge convicts Marcel of first-degree murder. Sentence, 35 years. Marcel is 18 years old. He'll be 53 when he gets out, if he serves the full sentence. But remember that videotape? It's about to change everything. Marcel spends the next 10 years in prison. Think about that. Age 18 to 28. The years when you go to college, start a career, fall in love, build a life, become an adult. Marcel spent those years in a cell for a crime he didn't commit. When I got out, I didn't know much about being a man, he said. I didn't know where to find work. I didn't know how to talk to people. Everything was a struggle. But his mother never stopped fighting. She hired attorneys. She researched the case. She refused to believe her son was guilty. And then she found the right lawyers. The Center on Wrongful Convictions at Northwestern University takes Marcel's case. Finally, someone watches that 33-hour videotape. Attorney Karen Daniel and Greg Swigert watch the interrogation footage. What they see makes them sick. An 18-year-old asking for his mother 7 times, denied every time. Detectives rotating shifts while Marcel gets no breaks. 33 hours of psychological manipulation. A teenager literally being tortured into a false confession. But they also find something else. Remember Day Day? The kid Marcel said was the actual shooter? Marcel was telling the truth. Day Day really did shoot Paris Jackson. Marcel had been right from hour 1. For 33 straight hours, he told the truth until the detectives broke him. June 2018. 10 years after his conviction, Circuit Court of Cook County holds an evidentiary hearing. Judge after judge watches that videotape. Their conclusion? Marcel's confession was coerced. It was involuntary. It was unconstitutional. For weeks later, all charges dismissed. After 10 years in prison, Marcel walks free. 2019. The court grants him a certificate of innocence, official legal recognition that he never should have been convicted. But freedom isn't justice. Not yet. Marcel files a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city of Chicago and the detectives who destroyed his life. Chicago's response? They offer less than $3 million. For 10 years of his life. For 33 hours of torture. For a coerced confession caught on camera. Marcel's attorneys say no. The judge recommends $5 million as a fair settlement. Chicago refuses. They won't go above $3 million. Marcel makes a decision. I want my day in court. I want a jury to see what happened to me. Here's where Chicago made its most expensive mistake. August 26, 2024. Federal courthouse in Chicago. For 2 weeks. The jury hears testimony. They watch excerpts from that 33-hour interrogation. They see 18-year-old Marcel begging to call his mother. Detectives denying every request. Hour after hour of psychological coercion. The exact moment Marcel breaks and says what they want to hear. Attorney Vanessa Del Valle plays the key moments. Watch his eyes here. This is hour 28. He hasn't slept in over 24 hours. He's exhausted, terrified, alone. Now watch this. Hour 31. The detectives tell him he's going to prison for 45 years unless he changes his story. And here, hour 32. Watch closely. This is the moment he breaks. The courtroom is silent. Expert witnesses testify about false confessions. Sleep deprivation impairs judgment as much as alcohol intoxication. After 30 hours without sleep, Marcel couldn't think clearly enough to protect himself. The threats of extreme prison sentences, combined with promises of leniency, create a psychological trap. People will say anything to escape. The evidence shows Detective Mancuso fabricated parts of the case, claiming Marcel made admissions he never actually made. What the jury saw next changed everything. September 9, 2024. The jury deliberates for 2 hours. 2 hours to decide a case involving 33 hours of interrogation and 10 years of wrongful imprisonment. They return to the courtroom. On the charge of coerced confession, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of fabricating evidence? Guilty. On the charge of violating constitutional rights? Guilty. The damages: $10 million for time between arrest and conviction, $40 million for his decade in prison and the years after, $50,000 in punitive damages against Detective Mancuso personally. Total, $50 million. The largest wrongful conviction verdict in United States history. But here's the part that should make you angry. Detective Michael, the man who led that 33-hour torture session, pays $50,000. That's it. $50,000 for destroying 10 years of someone's life. The rest? $49,950,000? That comes from Chicago taxpayers. Schools, infrastructure, social services, youth programs, mental health resources. Instead, that money goes to pay for police misconduct. And here's the really infuriating part. Chicago had multiple chances to settle this case. $3 million? Marcel said no. $5 million? City refused. They gambled that a jury wouldn't side with Marcel. They lost spectacularly. That $50 million verdict is more than 60% of Chicago's entire annual budget for police misconduct settlements. Think about that. One case, one wrongful conviction, one coerced confession. More than half the city's annual police misconduct budget. But Marcel isn't the only victim. Between January 2019 and June 2024, just 5.5 years, Chicago paid $200 million to resolve wrongful conviction lawsuits. Let me repeat that: $200 million in wrongful conviction settlements in 5 years. Recent cases: Adam Gray, $27 million after 24 years in prison. Eddie Bolden, $25.2 million after being cleared in a 1994 double murder. Nathan Fields, $22 million after being sentenced to death and later exonerated. This isn't a few bad apples. This is a poisoned orchard, and it's still happening. Right now, somewhere in Chicago, a detective is interrogating someone, maybe for 10 hours, maybe 20, maybe 33. Using the same tactics, the same threats, the same promises, creating the next wrongful conviction. Standing outside the federal courthouse with his mother, girlfriend, and young daughter, Marcel addresses reporters. Justice was finally served for me and my family today. All glory given to God. But then, he says something that should haunt everyone. I won't get that time back. No amount of money can give me back those 10 years. Marcel now works for Cure Violence, an anti-violence organization in Chicago. Fitting work for someone who understands exactly how the system fails young black men in Chicago. He's rebuilding his life, taking care of his family, trying to make up for a lost decade. But he's one of the lucky ones. He had a videotape proving his innocence. He had attorneys who fought for him. He had a mother who never gave up. How many innocent people are still in prison without any of those advantages? Here's what I want you to think about. If Chicago detectives will torture an 18-year-old for 33 hours on camera, what do they do when the cameras are off? If they'll fabricate evidence in a recorded interrogation, what happens in cases where there's no video? If one wrongful conviction costs $50 million, how many are happening that never get challenged? The answer should terrify you. Marcel got justice. After 16 years. After 10 years in prison. After 33 hours of torture. But justice delayed is justice denied. And for every Marcel who wins $50 million, there are dozens of innocent people still in prison. Still waiting. Still hoping someone will listen. This isn't just Marcel's story. This is America's story. What are you going to do about it? If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to understand how broken the system really is. Drop a comment. Should detectives who coerce false confessions face criminal charges? Should they be banned from law enforcement for life? Because right now, they face no consequences. Detective Mancuso will pay $50,000 and move on with his life. Marcel will carry the trauma of those 33 hours and 10 years in prison forever. That's not justice. That's not accountability. That's not acceptable. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay positive, and never forget, coerced confessions aren't evidence. They're crimes, and they're happening